Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tradesman Experience. This is the podcast built by tradesmen for tradesmen. My name is Josh, and I want to talk to you about the agreement that you've made. Obviously, we talk a lot about leadership. Obviously, we talk a lot about operations. Obviously, I talk a lot about roles, responsibilities, and expectations, which I'm going to do again. But rarely do we have a conversation from the employee perspective, from the member of the team perspective. So as I go through the agreement that you've made, I want to be very clear. This is not a top-down explanation. This is not a top-down agreement. This is up, down, lateral, all directions when you make an agreement. Let's talk about roles, responsibilities, and expectations. Let's go ahead and get it done because it's relevant to understanding the agreement. But it's also important for you to understand why having roles, responsibilities, and expectations is so important. Now, I'm not going to dive into minimum skill set requirement, and I'm not going to dive very much into compensation. But you've got to have the role, responsibility, and expectation. So let's just talk about the role real quick. This is the easiest part of this process because this is your company. So you can get creative. I do not care about titles, but I do care about the role and the position. And think of the role as the position that the individual plays in the company. What is the role? You need to define it. It needs to be clear. So I'm going to give you an elementary example, very simple, basic example to possibly help you better understand the role. If you have an apprentice, which is, we're going to call a level 1, if you have a level 2, level 3, and then a level 4, which you may consider to be a journeyman, you need to have those levels laid out because that is going to help you define the role. Now, the role may be equipment operator. The role may be MIG welder. The role may be HVAC maintenance technician. The role may be this. You need to clearly define the role. Now, listen, I understand in small business that multiple people wear multiple hats, and I get that. That does not excuse you from creating clarity. And the role, creating and defining these, and especially the role or the position, is not giving you or the employee permission to say that's not my job. That is not what the role is about. It's just about understanding what position on the team they play. Now, I don't watch sports ball at all, never have, but if you took a football team and you took a field full of players and you just put them on the field and nobody knew what position they were playing, nobody knew what the role was, it would be complete chaos and they would get destroyed. Every team would beat them. So you have to clearly understand and define the role. Clarity, clarity, clarity. Let's talk a little bit about responsibilities. If you are hiring someone, part of that individual's responsibilities may be to tool up. They may need to provide their own tooling. Now, this was something that I did in the HVAC company was I wanted my technicians to provide their own hand tools. One of their responsibilities was to provide their own hand tools. We had options for them. We could help them get tools. I won't dive into that, but one of the responsibilities was tooling. We provided the big stuff. We provided the trucks. We provided the big tools. We provided certain things, but it was their responsibility to have their own hand tools. Certifications. Now, it is their responsibility and I'm going to say theirs, and I'm also going to say yours, because again, this is not a top-down structure. I'm talking to owners, I'm talking to managers, I'm talking to employees. This applies on all and every single position that you have in the company. So maybe they need certifications or training. That's their responsibility. Now, if they get a cert or they pass a test or something and you want to reimburse them for that, it's your company, okay? Be creative. Showing up. This is something that I'm pissed that I even have to put this in responsibilities, but if anyone has worked in a company or owns a company today, we know that showing up is almost a fucking miracle for people to show up consistently. It is your responsibility to show up, but not only show up, to show up in uniform, to show up ready to work, to show up prepared. If you start at 7 a.m. and you show up at 6:59, you clock in, and then you tie your boots, and then you put your uniform on, and then you take a shit, and then you get ready for your day, you are not setting yourself up for success. You are a great example of a fucking dirtbag that only wants to get, not give. That is an attitude problem, by the way. That is not, oh man, I had to do this. No, that is an attitude problem. And if 7 o'clock is not attainable and it needs to be 7:30, that's something that needs to be negotiated within the company. But that is a responsibility for you to show up, be prepared in uniform, and hit the tools at 7 a.m. or whatever time that you clock in. It's your responsibility to manage your tools, to manage your inventory, to manage your implementation. That is your responsibility. System implementation is a responsibility in a company. That's why it's got to be listed under responsibilities. Now, you look at responsibilities and you could easily change the word from responsibilities to requirements. I prefer the term responsibility because I want to give the other individual opportunity to be responsible. Requirement has a sense of imposition. If you're in the onboarding process, it's imposition. It is requirement. You're managing these people on a high level, a micromanaging level in the onboarding process, because there's a lot of things that you have to discover and make sure that they are meeting the standard, the quality, the implementation, and it gives them a really good sense of the culture and the requirements of the business. But anything that you want and need to list that falls under responsibilities, when you're creating the role, the responsibilities, some are going to be across the board. They're going to be for the entire company, and there are going to be some responsibilities that are relevant to the position itself, to only that role. But be as detailed as possible. Be detailed in helping people understand what they are responsible for. Next are expectations. See, it's an expectation that you work well with others. It's an expectation that you communicate effectively, whether that is with the team, with management, with the client. It's an expectation. It's an expectation that you show up early to fulfill your responsibilities. It's an expectation that you are organized, that you're prepared. Some of you need to take a fucking shower. Some of you need to fix this dog mange that you've got going on around your face and head, and you need to look presentable. You need to look professional. That is an expectation. Now, I've worked for companies, especially back in the day, where some of this was not an expectation. It was a requirement. We were not allowed to have facial hair. Now, luckily back then I was young enough I couldn't even grow facial hair. But we weren't allowed. It was not permitted. You could not work there and have facial hair. So when you give people expectations, there has to be clarity of what that really means. And again, just like responsibility, the expectation should be fulfilling these requirements. They should be fulfilling the standard. They should be fulfilling the culture, but not only fulfilling, but complementing, right? You as an employee, you should work your ass off to be a catalyst for the standard. You should be the first one there. You should be the first one to jump in and do it. You should be the first one to be organized. You should be the first one to want to learn. You should want to be a catalyst for the opportunity in representing a company. It is an expectation, and this is really, for me, it goes in the same category as telling people that they have to show up, but it is an expectation that you commit to the role and the responsibilities that you have. And so many people want to be non-committal now because they don't want any sense of accountability. They don't want any sense of responsibility that we're talking about. So they minimize or filter their commitment because they feel if they do so, it's easier to blame. It's easier to complain. So you really have to build and understand the role, responsibilities, and expectations. If you don't have any people in your company, I'm talking to owners again, if you have no one in your company, but you hope to bring somebody in, you need to start creating these things on paper now. Don't wait till they get there and then step back and go, shit, I want you to go ahead and do this and want you to do that. We'll get you tooled up. We'll kind of figure out what you need. Holy shit. And I've seen companies run that way. You are putting yourself in a completely reactive situation when onboarding someone to your company. And what you're telling them is, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing. I hope that you work as hard as I do. I hope that you show up as early as I do. I hope that you have the same expectation. I hope that you have the same standard. I hope that you care as much about my business as I do. I hope you care as much about the clients as I do. And I hope that you won't steal from me. I hope that you develop your own positive, ambitious, growing expectations. I hope that you understand that the compensation that I'm giving you is fair market value. I hope that, see, when you don't have these things clearly laid out, your entire business model is built around hope. And there's no success there, and there's no sustainability. That is absolutely not going to work. You're going to be miserable because immediately you're giving them permission to create this themselves. And when it doesn't match what you had hoped for in your mind, you immediately become frustrated. And here's the bananas part about that. That's your fucking fault. You are the idiot in this situation. If you are in charge, if you are the leader, if this is your company, you are the idiot in this problem, not the person that you hired. Because if you're going to clearly write this out, and you're going to interview correctly as we talk about, and you're going to onboard in a manner that complements your company, you can filter out the bullshit and you can set these people up to be successful. See, when I go through this with someone and we have this conversation, what I'm doing is I'm writing out really terms and conditions for an agreement. These are the things that I require for you to come into my company. And see, this is not about you coming to work for me. This is about you coming here, working in this position, us working together, and we agree that we are going to do so. It is an agreement. Stop treating these positions like they're jobs, because if you treat it like it's a job and it's their job to do it, they're going to treat it like a job. which means they're not going to commit. They're not going to have high expectations. They're not going to fulfill the things that we're discussing. I don't want you to treat this like a job, so I'm not going to treat it like a job. I want you to take ownership of this position. I want you to be a catalyst of this position. But if I structure this and say, yeah, I would really like for you to come work for me. I think you would be a good fit for this position. You know, it's a really good job. There's no value in that. And yes, it is how you articulate it. But if you understand the effectiveness of communication, everything is how you articulate. See, I can say the exact same thing 2 different ways and get 2 different results. That's the art of communication. And you have to understand how to do that. You can't just give people, let's just refer to the mushroom managers, where they keep people in the dark, they feed them shit, and they hope they grow. You can't be a mushroom manager. You have to be a fucking leader. So you have to communicate these things with absolute clarity, but also have grace for the human factor. People are going to make mistakes. You have to give them permission to fail. If you don't give them permission to fail, you're not giving them permission to make decisions. You're not giving them permission to think outside the wire. You're not giving them permissions to be a catalyst. Instead, you're restricting them by not effectively communicating, not setting clear boundaries, not setting clear roles, responsibilities, and expectations. Instead, again, you're operating on hope. So looking at working together and having an agreement. Now I want to talk about the other side of this, because as I said, this is not a top-down structure. This is not, I'm the boss, you're the employee. See, the company has to have clearly defined roles, responsibilities, and expectations as a company. Yes, the leaders do. Yes, the employees do. But the company has to have clear roles, responsibilities, and expectations. I'll give you some examples. It is the company's responsibility to provide opportunity. When you go out into the market every day and you work to gain sales and you work to serve people and you work to do this work that solves a problem, those are opportunities. But you have to work to continue to build opportunity for the individual, and the company has to provide opportunities for not only itself, but the team and its leaders. So one of the responsibilities of the company is to provide opportunity. Another one, responsibility, expectation, is acknowledgement of the team. Every single time that I set into an interview or talk about somebody that's thinking about leaving their job, it's because they don't feel valued. People don't leave jobs, they leave leaders. It is absolutely the company's responsibility to acknowledge the people that are going above and beyond. You have to acknowledge the catalysts. And here's something crazy I've seen too, is when the individual is a catalyst and takes on roles, takes on responsibilities, creates expectations that don't align with the company but might exceed them, it creates confusion. And then you have a boss saying, well, that's not their job. They're not doing their job. I don't think they're doing this well. When really you're too close to it if you would step back and say, okay, wow, how are they impacting the overall operation? Are they bringing value to the team? What problems are they helping us solve? I've seen this happen. So it's the company's responsibility to have that dialogue with the people, to have that sense of acknowledgement and compensation, which is the next one on my list. It's the company's responsibility to provide compensation, to provide reward. When you look at opportunity, there needs to be structure and kind of a clear understanding of how to obtain those opportunities, how to secure those opportunities, and then what does the compensation or what does the reward look like? So the company has to have these as well. And this is why I said earlier about you can't look at it as a job. It has to be an agreement between two parties, because so many companies fuck this up because they want it to be a top-down structure. They just think that the individual should show up and work for them and not ask questions about what the company is doing, not ask questions about what the company is trying to do for them, not ask questions about potential opportunities and future growth. They just want you to show up. Just trust me. Just trust me. I'm not going to tell you where we're going. I'm not going to show you what we're doing. I'm not going to be transparent. I'm not going to communicate with you. Just trust me. And this is probably the most I'm going to talk to you because you have a job to do. And I expect you to do it not only like me, but better. So good luck. That's how a lot of companies operate. That's how a lot of companies treat their people. It is the company's responsibility to provide leadership. It is the company's responsibility to provide leadership. So if you have leadership and then you have someone in a leadership role that is not fulfilling the expectation of the role, the responsibility of the role, but yet is imposing the standard, is imposing the expectation, is imposing the responsibility on the people that they have been given to lead, it creates chaos. It creates disorganization. It creates distrust. And it creates hypocrisy. See, when the company provides leadership, the individual that is in that role is now in an agreement with the company that they're going to fulfill, and fuck, I can't believe I'm saying this again, the role, responsibility, and expectation. That's the agreement. And now part of the agreement is also because that responsibility is you're responsible for these other people. You're responsible for understanding how they perform. You are responsible for acknowledgement and value. You are fucking responsible to hold people accountable. And if you are not in a position where you are made to hold someone else accountable, you got to ask yourself, why do I need someone to hold me accountable? I'll tell you why, because you're a fucking child. That's why. You have no emotional maturity or concept, and you want to treat this position, you want to treat this opportunity as a job, but yet you want full benefit in return. You want people to listen to your bullshit opinion. You want people to listen to you complain, and you do as little as possible to keep from getting fired. If someone has to hold you accountable to your poor behavior, like I said, some of you just need to take a fucking shower and shave. And you probably get a raise in 6 months because you are embodying this sense of being a professional. You are embodying this sense of owning your craft and really developing yourself in this role. If you look like a fucking cat that just crawled out of a dumpster, no one's impressed, man. And you can say, well, I don't really give a shit what people think about me. I don't really give a shit what people say. Okay, but you would like to make more money, yes? You would like to have better benefits, yes? You would like better opportunity, yes? You want to achieve these things, yes? Then you have to fucking care. You should be so fucking disciplined about who you are and what you do and the way that you work that that you really don't care about what people say. Because, see, people will talk about other people that are down here and people will talk about other people that are up there. If it's above or below them, they're going to talk shit. I would rather people talk shit on me because I'm busting my fucking ass, because I'm organized, because I'm disciplined, because I'm doing the thing. Everybody's like, oh, you're a suck ass, you're a company man. No, motherfucker, I'm here to be the best fucking version of me. Because you might not understand this, but if I show up and I give my all, it also helps you become successful. But when you show up and you look like a bag of ass and you haven't showered in a fucking week and you want to do as little as possible, you're preventing success of other people and yourself. That is not the agreement. agreement. That is not the fucking agreement that we have. So when you take on a job, when you take on a role, when you say, yes, I'm going to commit to showing up and I'm going to do these things and I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow, that's the agreement. You're not, and I'm turning the page because I got my notes in front of me and I'm getting fired up here. The agreement is not, and here, this is why leadership is so important, that companies provide leadership, is the agreement was not that you're going to come in here and complain every fucking day. The agreement was not that you're going to create drama. The agreement was not that you're going to gossip. The agreement was not that you have this sense of entitlement and you're just waiting to be handed things. That is not the agreement. And you have to have this entire fucking path. You have to have this structure laid out, because most people are going to fall to the level of least resistance. They're going to fall into a habit of doing just enough. And unfortunately, when you don't have clear expectations, when you don't have clear rules and policy and procedures about drama, negativity, gossip, entitlement, it breeds this shit, right? It's cancer in a business. So when you don't have these clear roles, you get this fucking Eeyore moping around the office, vomiting negativity on everyone because their life sucks. Get fucking rid of them. Get them out. I can assure you that position, if that person is in that position probably doesn't need to exist in your business. They are not moving the fucking needle. They are just infecting everyone with their bullshit. Get them out. And since it is the company's responsibility to provide leadership, it is leadership's responsibility to remove those fucking toxic, cancerous dirt bags so you can monitor and manage the culture of the business. See, if you're going to be a bag of fucking ass and you're going to complain all the time, we're going to have a conversation about it, because I'm going to have you help me remember that our agreement was about you being a negative fucking Nancy piece of shit. That was not the agreement that we had. You fucking no call, no show me, you're done. See, this is also why companies have to have non-negotiables, guys. This is why companies have to have clearly outlined non-negotiables that when they are crossed, that there's no excuse. No call, no show, non-negotiable. Fucking fired immediately. Stealing, non-negotiable, fired immediately. Whatever they are in your company, you need to clearly outline them. And honestly, they should be printed at the top of every form that you have for roles, responsibilities, and expectations. Whatever they are in your business, you have to identify what are these things? If they did it one time, I would fire them immediately. You need to write those down. See, so if you look at this as an agreement, instead of a job, instead of a boss, instead of a manager, instead of an employee, you understand that it's easier to manage the position. It's easier to lead people. It is easier to have these conversations because we get to revisit the agreement. We get to revisit the terms that we agreed upon. And if you're not doing the things that we agreed upon, and it's to a point, and I'm not talking about people having a bad day or a job going sideways or something happening. I understand the human factor. But if it's to a point where we are having a conversation about the agreement that we made, then we have to look at some options. One option might be, look, when you began working here, we had an agreement. And in that agreement, it clearly states that you are going to do these things and we are going to do these things, and we will work together to achieve those. You're not holding up your end of the agreement. So I need to know, do you want to move on? Do you need to seize an opportunity somewhere else? Do you need to tell me what is going on and why you are shitting the bed on your performance and the work that you're doing? Or do we need to rewrite our agreement and decrease your pay? See, the compensation has to be relevant and reflective of the role, of the responsibilities, of the expectations. So when we have an agreement and you don't fulfill your agreement, well, that's a breach of contract. So let's rewrite the agreement, rewrite your role, and compensate you appropriately based on your performance. If you have someone that is just knocking it out of the park and they need to elevate, if you wait for their 6-month review or annual review to give them a raise, fuck you. You are going to run that individual off. If you have someone that is coming in, that is a catalyst, that is getting shit done, that is holding the standard, that is representing the brand, the culture, you better compensate them, put them in a new, redefine these things. Okay? And the compensation here, just so you guys understand a little bit, is the compensation, the different levels, as I talked about earlier. There needs to be compensation levels also within the level within the levels, compensation bracket. And give it a $2 to $5 an hour range. I don't know your industry, I don't know your demographics, but give it a $2 to $5 an hour range or percentage, so you have people that can move up within the same level. And here's why. And here's one of the issues that I have with union structure. If I show up every day as a journeyman and I bust my ass and I'm professional and I'm learning and I'm doing the things, and you have fucking No Dick Tommy over here who shows up late, leaves early, steals while he's there, looks like a bag of ass, hasn't showered in 3 days, doesn't do anything to look professional, but yet because we are in the same level, we're both a journeyman, that piece of shit makes the same amount of money that I do. That frustrates me. Because, see, you're taking away the opportunity of performance. You're taking away the opportunity for growth. You're taking away the expectation of being a professional and having accountability. Okay? Because fucking No Dick Donnie can do whatever he wants, and I am held to a different standard, and yet we make the same amount of money. So you need to create some levels of compensation within the level so you can promote people accordingly. It's very important. And guys, this is not complicated. I can assure you it's not complicated. It's going to take a little bit of work on the front end, and it's going to take a little bit of work to manage the system. But it's not complicated. It's simple. You just got to create it. You just got to put the work in, and you've got to get it done. And, look, I understand the market right now. I understand that. I'm going to talk to some of you that aren't owners. I'm going to tell you right now, the market is the only reason you have a job. Because you don't try, you only complain, you blame, you have no accountability. I could go on and through the things that I've mentioned multiple times, but the market is the only reason you have a fucking job. And the moment there's an opportunity or a turn in the market, I can assure you that you're gone. You are going to be gone. The other thing this market has done is it's overpaying you probably. It's probably compensating you more than you're actually worth because you're a body. You're able to do some work. So understand that when the market does change, what I said change, I don't know what the fuck it's going to do. And you get let go, it's because of you. It's because of your decision on how to behave and how to perform. So owners, I know that you have people in your company right now because of the market, because you're having a difficult time finding someone to fill that position. That's why you have to constantly fucking recruit. Because the best person that you're looking for is someone that loves their job and hates their boss. You want to find that person. You want to find that person because you want to be able to give them an opportunity to feel valued, to gain acknowledgement, to have opportunity and growth, have a clear understanding of what the vision and the plan is, know what their roles, responsibilities, and expectations are. And when you plug those types of people into that equation, the result is success. That is a great formula for success. So you should always be recruiting to try to get rid of the fucking Eeyore in your company. Again, guys, this is not complicated. It's very simple. It takes a lot of time. It takes discipline. It takes effort. It takes conversation. Fucking call me. Let's have a conversation about it. Let me help you structure these things in your company. Let me help you build roles, responsibilities, and expectations. Let me help you learn how to communicate these. Let me help you learn how to interview. Let me help you learn how to hold people accountable and fire them when you need to. You need to learn these things if you're going to be in a leadership or ownership position. And back to the employee, and I'll start wrapping it up here, is you need to learn how to have a conversation with your boss or your owner about how to promote, how to grow, and how to receive more compensation. Because if you go to your boss and you say, hey man, I've been here a year, I'd like to talk to you about getting a raise. That's pretty much the end of that conversation. You're forcing them to react, which unfortunately they are because they haven't been proactive. There's no growth plan. There's none of this stuff in place. But now they're reacting and go, shit, okay, well, we got to give Josh another $1 an hour or he's going to bail. Go to your boss and say, I've got an idea or a couple ideas on how we can structure some things, on how we can make things more efficient, on how we can do things better, how we can solve these problems. See, go to your boss and say, and what you're doing is you're presenting them with value. And listen, if you're like, well, that's not my company. Okay, then fucking quit and go somewhere else for $1 an hour so you can be miserable again, you fuck. You've got to get this out of your mind that this is just my job. No, this is an agreement and you have an obligation to add value because you have an obligation to commit. So go to your boss and say, I have an idea of how we can save money doing this, how we can solve these problems, and now you can negotiate. And if that gets you nowhere, then your boss, your fucking mushroom manager is a piece of shit. And the company that I just talked about that's looking for the right employee that loves their job and hates their boss, you are now that person. Now you need to go out and you need to start recruiting opportunities. You need to go start having conversations with other businesses because you're holding yourself back because of poor leadership. You are holding yourself back because you feel safe. You have this security. You're not fucking safe. There's no security there. You should work to build your own value. You should work to build your security. If I get fired today, I fucking know I got a job tomorrow. That's something that only you can create. So you got to get to work. You've got to get focused on doing these things. You've got to understand the roles, responsibilities, and expectations. And now I'm going to put a final twist here as I work to close out. This applies to relationships. Now, someone might say, why in the fuck would I put company structure into my relationship? That sounds ridiculous. Okay. I'm not saying that you need to put company structure into your relationship. What I am saying is you need to understand what your fucking role is. You need to understand what each person in that relationship is responsible for. You need to be able to sit down and have very clear expectations of your partner. And you need to know what their expectations of you are. Now, I will tell you, I am not saying this out of fucking theory. One day, Katie will come on here and she can tell you that we have had the hard conversations about what we expect from each other, what our non-negotiables are. And it is the best fucking thing you can ever do for your relationship is have the hard conversations. And this was a term that was shared with me in a recent conversation. It's fucking healthy. Okay? It's healthy to have these conversations. It's healthy to have expectations. It's healthy to have and know your responsibilities. You've got to have that laid out. It will help your relationship become successful, just like it will help your position or your business become successful. Guys, thank you so much for spending this time with me. My name is Josh. You can find me on Instagram at The Tradesman Experience. Email is thetradesmanexperience@gmail.com. Website's The Tradesman Experience. And this is on YouTube at The Tradesman Experience. Guys, get out there, get shit done. Till next time. See ya.